This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk all about Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Denuvo playing the victim, Sony shutting down two more studios, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to that beautiful Bane intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 56. I am your host, the man who will not be playing Dragon Age Veilguard at 500p 60 frames per second, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who donated his reparations check to the Stack Up charity, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
It's been pretty slow, I'll say. Nothing really too much stood out to me, but I guess a couple things that I noted. Well, one thing, I went to work a different way today, and I happened to notice I'd never seen this before. This huge skeleton someone had outside as a Halloween decoration, and this thing was probably about, I don't know, about 10, maybe higher, 10 feet plus. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's different. But also, my mind immediately clicked and thought, is this like a Dark Souls enemy or something? You're just gotta dodge roll past him and just, swing a couple times. But yeah, for the most part, nothing too much has happened. I had been pondering it some more over this weekend, but because I didn't watch more of the movies that I originally wanted to for my comparison, I decided I'll just delay this. If not, if I don't get around to doing this comparison, that's fine. But I had something come in the mail yesterday, and I thought this is gonna be a much better video to put out, so I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to that, and I'll share some more of that later on. But yeah, not too much of a busy week.
That's good. Let's see here. My week, obviously Friday had the 24-hour live stream. Went pretty well. Didn't play as many games as I was expecting I would play, but it's mostly because that Metaphor demo was a lot longer than I was expecting it would be. And I'll get more into that later, but beyond that, let me think of what we had going on. Nothing out of the ordinary that I can think of other than I know that there's something I'm forgetting. I guess there's nothing really all that out of the ordinary. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep after the stream, because I had planned on sleeping about 4 hours, and I basically slept about 2.5 and had to go to the bathroom, and then I couldn't get back to sleep, so I just decided I would get up and get some strong coffee, and then I was fine for the rest of the day. But yeah, beyond that, it's I feel like there's something I'm forgetting about, but honestly I can't remember what it was. So I have started a tiny bit. I'm maybe 5 minutes in to putting together the Persona 5 Royal comparison. But literally all I've gotten through is the intro video that plays at the beginning of the game when you first boot it up, and that's it. So I spent maybe 15-20 minutes on it yesterday, and I just haven't had time to work on it otherwise. So, but yeah, that is it for that. I feel like, seriously, there's something I'm forgetting about, and I honestly cannot remember what it was. So, if I think of it later, I'll bring it up when I'm talking about my games. But otherwise, what have you been playing this past week?
So my friends and I, we got back into playing some more Satisfactory, and we've been expanding the base some more, and we've been trying to complete some of our objectives, and for the most part, things have been standard procedure. Except this week, my friend said, hey, do you mind, Justin, going ahead and trying to reroute some of our production material over to just the over to, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this beacon thing where we send all our resources for missions. And initially I was thinking to myself, you really want me to do that? I'm not great with logistics and stuff and infrastructure, but after trying to fiddle around with everything, I was able to get a somewhat decent ramp for all our production going over, so that worked out pretty well. And we were able to get one of the main primary objectives completed. I can't remember how many there are supposed to be. There are at least I think maybe 3. There could be more than that, but yeah. And then also I found this I found this little lizard animal thing that in the wild, and apparently if you befriend it, it can find items for you. So that has been a little bit useful, just finding some random stuff to bring to us. And yeah, so not much to say about that. So I also have been playing some more Power World. This time, I explored some more of the map because I went back to 2 of the boss towers, and I just, even with the new weapon I have and some better armor, it just was not possible right now. So I really feel like I need to level up some more and unlock some better weapons, because I just really feel like I'm banging my head against the wall at this point with those. So I did manage to find this interesting castle ruins area, which I thought looked pretty nice and interesting. Haven't explored too much of that area yet, but that's partially because I've been went over to another area to also explore, also / grind by capturing some pals. And I went into a cave just to see what's in there, and I heard a little, I guess, ringing sound, and that's normally something you hear if you're hearing a, I guess, equivalent to a shiny Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I heard that. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I'm gonna go see what it is. I'm gonna try to catch it. The problem was this pal was a level 48,
Mm-hmm.
and I was about level 37. So it's much more powerful than I am, and I was not expecting to encounter something like that in this cave based upon the level rank for the cave. And so it took me about 15 minutes to capture this thing, and even with then, just to whittle its health down, because it was dealing so much damage to me. I was trying to split the aggro between my pals, but it kept coming back for me, and that was a huge problem. And I only managed to actually beat the thing because it somehow glitched and got clipped into the wall, and it came out enough to the point that I could actually shoot it. If I got too close, though, it could actually hit me, but yeah. I was able to whittle its health down enough, and then I went through most of my pal spheres. Like, I burned through most of those, and I was able to finally capture it, but man, that was such a hassle. I mean, I spent nearly all of my ammo, and my armor almost got completely shredded, but I got through that, and I was trying to find the exit, but unfortunately, every time I kept trying to go through one of the different pathways, I met a dead end, and then when I kept coming back, enemies were respawning, so I said, forget this. I'm just going to head to the entrance and leave, and I'll come back later. But that was something there. But lastly, though, I've been playing some more Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and primarily what I've been doing was just trying to level up my forms, because I wanted to improve my dodge roll. I wanted to improve my I can't remember what the other, I think it's aerial dash or something like that, which is weird because I think in the other games, primarily 358, it's called something else, but I guess they changed the name between now and then. And then also, once I unlocked it, the glide ability, which I've been waiting to get for quite a while at this point. And one thing, though, in order to even get that, I finally faced Roxas, and I was a bit surprised at how difficult he was. I knew you faced him, and actually a friend of mine told me that he was completely new to the final mixed version of Kingdom Hearts 2, but when I fought him, I did not expect him to be that difficult. And I mean, he wiped the floor with me for about 5 times in a row, and I thought, what am I doing wrong here? Like, how am I just getting completely obliterated? I could barely get him down to I could barely wipe out 2 of his bars before he just comboed me to death. And eventually around the 7th time, I noticed a couple times that there was a quick time event where you could try to use a reaction, but when I used the reaction on him, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is so much easier. I can just take his keyblades and then just wallow on him and it's over. And so I realized then that that boss fight is either the hardest boss fight or it's the easiest boss fight if you can get the reaction correct. I mean, it definitely was fun and definitely was interesting, but wow. I mean, I'm definitely certain that there are people out there who have done Kingdom Key level 1 fights against Roxas and have most likely prevailed, and especially if they did like no damage runs. Kudos to those people. I'm not that skilled enough, but hey, I did what I had to win. But yeah, I'm right right at the Xigbar boss fight. I tried him a couple times before we started recording. He's doable, but the problem is that once he's down to his last few bars of health, he really starts spamming his special attack where he's completely invulnerable and it just wipes your health out. And I don't think you can block or dodge. I mean, maybe I'm not doing something right, but it's just so difficult at that point. So I feel like it'll take me a couple more tries to beat him, but yeah, that's where I'm at for that. So yeah, that's everything I've been playing this week.
All right. Well, I gotta say, of course, because I've only ever played the original version of Kingdom Hearts 2, I was like, okay, I was watching the video clip that you took of you fighting Roxas, and I'm like, I remember seeing this character from like the secret cutscene at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, but I don't remember ever doing this fight, and now I know why.
Yeah, like they told me that originally it was just a cutscene they had in Kingdom Hearts 2, but then when they made Final Mix, they said I guess they said, what if we made it a full boss fight? And so then they just added that in there.
That makes sense. Cool. Yeah, definitely good stuff there. In terms of what I've been playing, so obviously because I did that 24-hour stream, first I did some testing. Tested out Ghostwire Tokyo. Played that, of course, on the PC and got pretty good performance out of it. I think it was fairly good. It wasn't like something where I was 100% sure what I thought of it. But it's, much like with BioShock, it's one of those where you have to start getting more abilities for it to actually start to really feel good versus, early on you don't have a whole lot to work with, and so you're just kind of working based on a very limited framework. But yeah, I ended up not playing that during the 24-hour stream at all. But I did, I actually played it, and I don't have the footage here because I didn't record any footage, but I actually tried it a little bit on the Steam Deck this evening, just because I was curious how it ran there. And it runs okay. So I turned on upscaling. I was using like an Unreal based upscaling, and it seemed like whether I went with balanced or performance, I was getting about the same frame rate, where it was a big improvement over when I was just running it at native resolution without upscaling. Because without upscaling, I was getting between 30 and 40, and with upscaling, I was typically getting over 50 frames per second. So it's definitely better. Doesn't seem like gyro is really an option for this game. I need to do some research and see if there's any way to make it work, but the joystick works fine for aiming, at least so far. Granted, I've only done like some basic enemies, but a little bit that I played was cool, and I think that it's definitely something that I could see myself playing more. I just haven't fully decided if I'm like really playing it right now, or if I'm just kind of dabbling with it, or what exactly I want to do with that, because I'm also heavily into other games at the moment. So in terms of what I actually played, on stream. I'm going to try to keep it as much in order as possible. So first I played a little bit of Elden Ring, and I really need to figure out whether the slight performance issues I was having was because of the fact that I was streaming it, or if it was just the game in general, like has something's changed about it to where it doesn't run as well. Because I remember when I originally started playing Elden Ring on PC, I was able to get a locked 60 frames per second with high settings, and then I even had at one point tried out like a mod that let me unlock the frame rate and was getting in the 80s. But when I was playing on stream, I was getting in the 40s mostly, which, like, that's not really good for the power of my computer. It just didn't make sense to me. So I have to mess with that, but I didn't play a ton of it. I basically just played, I think, maybe half hour to an hour. I went up to a boss out in the overworld. I can't remember the name of it. It's like Falling Star Beast or something like that. And I fought it several times. I think the best I did was maybe getting it down about halfway, but mostly I just wasn't entirely feeling comfortable with it, and I feel like if I'm going to try jumping back into Elden Ring, I need to spend more time just kind of working on it in general to get more comfortable with the controls again, because it's been a while since I played anything from Soft, and Elden Ring is just different enough from Dark Souls to where it was just kind of messing me up. So probably whenever I decide I really want to play more of that, then I'll probably do it mostly on the Steam Deck, at least to get myself familiarized again with the controls before I play on my PC. But then I played a little bit of Starfield. I played really not much. I think I played maybe half an hour of it. Performance is just not good on that game. Like, there's no reason my computer should run it so poorly. I can run games that are significantly better looking and more detailed and everything at much higher frame rates. Like, I can run Horizon Forbidden West, which is another open world game, looks way better, and I can run that in the 70s and 80s. This one, I'm consistently dropping down into the 40s, and that's with reduced settings, quite a bit reduced, and it's just like, of course, the vehicle that they have for getting around the Rev 8 that they added, I can see the reason why it was not originally part of the game, because the performance tanks quite a bit while you're riding that thing. Really, I think the only way I'm going to be able to get back into Starfield for real is to just focus on quests, and instead of trying to do exploration stuff, because like the exploration stuff can be fun if I'm in the right mindset. But the problem is that I was like trying to get back into the groove of things and get comfortable with everything again, and exploring when the frame rate is chugging just really kind of ruined the experience for me. Whereas in the past, whenever I was focused on just doing quests, I was having a lot of fun with it, and then the exploration was just like, okay, this is fine as well. Like I enjoyed it more. So I'm kind of thinking Starfield is not really going to be something I play after all, at least not just yet. I don't know. I'm kind of unsure about it. It's actually not possible. I mean, it's actually possible, not impossible, that I might be done with Starfield completely. But like I said, I think the main thing is I need to just jump into some actual regular story quests, or just quests and side quests that don't involve wandering around the open world so much, and instead are, focused on actual missions and all that, because that tends to be more enjoyable. So that being said, the thing I ended up spending the most time on during my stream, even though it was a grand total of about 6 hours, just split up, was the Metaphor ReFantazio demo. And man, that game, like, okay, so I started it off, and I was a little unsure what I thought about it initially. Then I decided, okay, these Atlas games always have great soundtracks. I'm not getting enough of it listening to it through the speakers, so I popped on my headphones and started hearing the music more. And then I started getting more and more into it, and I loved the demo. It really got me into it. The fact that it was 6-hour long demo, yeah, that's short compared to the length of the full game for sure. But I just really dug it, and I definitely want to get this game. Now I didn't buy it yet, as I've already told you, but that's really just because even if I get it on discount and get it for just over $60, it's a bit much to be spending on a game when I don't really have a bunch of extra funds right now. And furthermore, I have more than enough games to play, plus 2 full-length Atlas RPGs that I bought this year alone, not even counting like some of the extra ones like the Persona Q games on the 3DS that I've only dabbled with the first one. And like I kind of keep that separate in my mind, and then of course there's like Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne that I bought on Switch a few years ago that I haven't played at all yet. But it's like, okay, well I have both Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance and Persona 3 Reload that I bought this year, and I want to play both of those. So I'll get into that a little bit later. Other stuff I played on stream, because this one was like I did this was my 3rd game, but then it was also one of the last 2 games I played, but in between that, like I played Lego games with my boys, which I wasn't even thinking about the fact that I would end up getting copyright claims because of the music in those games, because it's based on Star Wars and Harry Potter, and so I got copyright claims, and so it's blocked in some countries. So I'll have to keep that in mind in the future, that anytime I'm playing licensed games, that I make sure I mute the sound on the game so that I'm not getting copyright claims. Even though I'm not monetized, it's still just like I don't want to be in a position in the future where I am monetized and then, I'm losing a bunch of revenue from that. But I didn't record any footage for those. Then played Mario Party with the family, with the boys and my wife. And then after all of that, the kids went to bed, and my wife and I played Diablo 4, which I don't have footage for either, but I played that while we listened to The Greatest Showman. Speaking of which, have you had a chance to watch that yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
I figured as much.
Have it acquired now, so
okay.
I can find it some time to watch it.
Sounds good. But anyway, so yeah, that was a lot of fun. Both of those. I always enjoy playing games with her anyway, but it's always even better when we have something fun to listen to while we're doing it. It's just been like something we do together a lot, and we've done together a lot over the years. Like we did that with Diablo 3 a bunch on the Switch, and then we did a little bit with Diablo Immortal, and then we've done it some with Diablo 4, though. Probably not as much, mostly just because the only way we can do it at the same time is if she's playing on the Steam Deck and I'm playing on the PC. So that doesn't happen super often, and she's not always in the mood to play, and yeah, I don't know. It happens more often when we have more time to do it, because otherwise, I don't know, like half the time when I'm trying to play that, I'm falling asleep. Oh, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, sometimes what I've done is she'll play it on the Steam Deck, and so that I can sit in the bed with her, I'll stream it to my phone from my computer. So that happens too. But either way, we just haven't played a whole lot of that until this last time. That was a lot of fun. But then after she went to bed, got back to Metaphor, played the rest of the demo, and was super tempted to buy the full game, and obviously decided not to. But because of that, I decided to jump into Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, and this footage that I have here is actually from the Steam Deck, which I just recorded today because I've actually been playing it quite a lot. So I played it for like 7-ish hours on stream, give or take. It actually probably, I don't know if it was quite that long. I can't remember when I started playing it, but I started playing it on stream and played probably 6 or 7 hours. And then otherwise, I've played it a decent bit off stream, just on my own on the Steam Deck, because of course Steam Deck, it still looks amazing and runs at a locked 60 frames per second all the time. So it's a great game for the Steam Deck. And of course on PC it's running 240 most of the time. Anywhere from 120 to 240. So yeah, that's really good. But then the last game that I played is a little something that I talked about last week that I was trying to decide whether or not to get, and I just went ahead and pulled the trigger on, and that's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Now, I haven't played a ton of this. I think I've played like maybe 2 or 3 hours. I'm playing on the Switch, and I'm not sure if I'm really getting into it right now or not. Like, of course, being a Metroidvania, that's fun and all. Seems to run pretty well on the Switch. I'm not sure if it's maintaining 60 frames or not, but it is, I believe, staying above 30. I'm not 100% certain on that, to be real, but I'm sure, obviously, it would run a lot better on the Steam Deck than it runs on the Switch. But it's fine. I mean, I wanted to get it on Switch because, for one, it was only $20, and two, that's for the physical version. So I went for that, and looks pretty good. Seems to run reasonably well, even though it's still not perfect. The one thing I will say, I'm not sure how I feel about the combat yet, and it could very well just be me. I can't tell if there's a little bit of input lag on that, or if it's just because the parry timing is so weird. Because like I got used to the parry timing in God of War, or before that Ghost of Tsushima, where you have more of a narrow window, but you're usually doing it just before they hit. Whereas the parry timing on most attacks that you can parry, it's like you do it really, really early. And it's like basically the first time you see them getting ready to attack is when you do it. And I haven't quite gotten the timing down to where I feel comfortable with it yet, where I feel like I can actually nail it most of the time. And the dodging is a little weird too. I mean, it works. Once again, it's something where I haven't quite figured it out yet. I do like the platforming. I think the platforming is really solid. I haven't had a whole lot of puzzles yet, and of course I'm still very early in the game. I've only gotten one upgrade thing, which was just getting a bow and arrow that lets you shoot arrows. And apart from that, I don't even have a double jump yet or anything like that. So still super early in it. Haven't fully decided what I think. I should say, I know I'm going to enjoy it as I get further into it. It's just that early on, I feel kind of weak, and I'm also just not quite comfortable with the combat, I guess. The platforming is the one thing that I think feels really solid from the get-go. And, of course, it'll feel even better once I actually have, a double jump. Just a very basic thing that's always super helpful to have. But, you have wall jumping from the very beginning and things like that. But, yeah. I think it's going to be a good game. I haven't fully decided if I'm actually playing it right now or not, since I am still playing Shin Megami Tensei, and I'm, still pretty early. I think I have about 30 hours in so far. The story has been very different in many ways from the original version of the game, which I think is great because that just makes it that much more... it feels more worthwhile to be playing it just because of the fact that it's all a completely new story. Even if the story wasn't the number one reason that I enjoyed the original version of the game. I mean, the story is kind of secondary to me by a long shot because it's really just the gameplay is excellent. So But yeah, I think that is everything. I mean, other than, like I said, playing some more of Ghostwire Tokyo on the Steam Deck before we started up tonight.
Nice. So with Elden Ring, or I guess especially with Starfield, did you have any sort of performance issues before with Starfield?
Occasionally, but it was never that bad.
Huh.
And it might just be because I spent a lot more time wandering in the open world this time around, and that usually is where the performance takes the biggest hit. But also because the fact that I was doing the Rev 8 and that thing really, it's like the creation engine is just bad. Like I gave them a lot of credit in the past, but it is a terrible engine, and no matter how many cool things it can do, the fact of the matter is when it comes to an open world, like if you're just walking around or riding a horse, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're moving faster in like a faster moving vehicle, it's awful. And I don't know. I wish that game performed better, but I know that my main issue wasn't even just the performance, even though it was definitely detrimental. It was mostly just that I was kind of getting bored with it. And it was really just because I wasn't trying to do the quests. I was just focused on exploration, and the exploration is not always that interesting if you're not already like invested in playing. So,
and I guess, or at least I didn't notice anything. Did you notice if any other games happened to suffer any performance dips or
no,
from normal?
No, not that I noticed. Everything else seemed to be running just fine. But I mean, really, the only thing that I was playing that would have even been considered demanding was Metaphor, and that, like I was getting, while running it at 200% resolution, downsampled to 1080p, so 4K downsampled, I was still getting 60 frames per second without any drops below that. So, but yeah, everything else, I'm sure the frame rate was probably a little lower on Vengeance, but even with it being lower, it's still above 120, so it's like, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, it's just where that also Elden Ring also suffered,
right?
Because I feel like you definitely should have been getting your lock 60.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to probably boot it up again and just try doing it without any sort of streaming. I'm guessing the streaming was the big cause of that it was just doing a little too much. And I think that was before I shut off the preview on OBS. And so it may have just been having to render it more because of that, even if it was on a smaller scale. And that may have been hurting performance, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I can.
I was just going to say, I remembered something that I wanted to tell you about that happened. So Sunday, I was trying to boot up my computer in the morning because I needed to put together PowerPoint for church. Because I found out kind of last minute that I needed to put it together. And it shouldn't have taken that long, but my computer was doing this thing where, well, first of all, it had crashed on me once on Saturday afternoon. I couldn't figure out why it crashed on me because it was like the first time I've gotten a blue screen and I don't even know how long. I mean, it's been probably 6 months or longer since the last time I had a blue screen. And then I didn't have any more problems the rest of the day. But then Sunday morning, it crashed on me. And then when I started it up, it would like, the fans would start up and then it would just go, shut off. Fans turn on, it would just keep doing that for a while. And so it's like, what's happening? Is my computer dying on me? Like, did I just put it under too much strain doing the 24-hour stream? And so it occurred to me, so I look up the error message that it had given me. It said that it could be something to do with the RAM. It could be, I can't remember what the other issue was that it said it could be. But of course I couldn't get it started up, so I'm not really sure exactly what to do. And then it occurred to me, well, now that I think about it, there have been times in the past where I had issues with the RAM, and the issue was if the RAM stick was loose. If it was loose, then it wouldn't boot up. And so the first thing I did was I pulled out the sticks from the second and fourth slot, because since they're always offset, that's just the right way to do it. So I pulled out the second and fourth one, which reduced me from 64 gigs down to 32. And okay, computer started up, was able to do stuff I needed to do. But I didn't want to mess any further with it, because I just needed to make sure the stuff that needed to get done got taken care of before I went to church and all that. Came back after lunch, and I decided, okay, I'm going to try putting these RAM sticks back in, make sure that they're secure, and then start it up and see if it works. And yeah, that worked. Somehow they got loose. I have no idea how. I mean, it must have just been maybe it got jostled or something when I was moving the secondary PC back to the guest room, since I didn't need it in here anymore. Maybe I had accidentally run into my computer and then it just jostled the RAM sticks loose or something. But yeah, thankfully it was nothing serious, and I haven't had any problems since. Yeah, because it's that was really unusual, because I don't really have problems with my computer. I mean, not that there's zero problems, but most of the problems are if I restart it, I'm good to go. No problem. That's it. And that was the first time in a while that I had something like that happen. But then I remembered, oh yeah, RAM 6 could potentially be loose, and that was the problem. So back up to my 64 gigs of RAM, which is way more than I will probably ever need. But yeah. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Oh yeah, so I was just going to ask you about the pairing in Prince of Persia, just because I was curious to know how loose or how tight you needed to get your pairing timing right. So would you say it needs to be as precise as, say, Metroid Dread or Samus Returns, or is it a little bit looser, say Arkham Origins Blackgate?
I would say the parry window is fairly small. It's probably about the same as it is in Samus Returns and Dread, but it's been a long time since I played either, so I couldn't say with certainty. The main thing is that it's also a lot earlier than I would expect it to be, because I'm used to the parry window being much closer to when the attack would actually hit you, instead of it being you have to do it right when the attack starts. And it's that's the way for the standard attacks, for the yellow flashing ones with the yellow flashing ones, you can do a more powerful counter attack if you parry just before it hits. So those ones are a little more like what you would expect in terms of the parry timing, but it's just I wish there was just consistency. I'd rather it be just one way instead of one way for regular attacks and then a completely different way for the yellow attacks. So.
Okay. And one last question that I was gonna wait until after you had done the live stream. Do you think, based upon how things went with this past weekend, that any future live streams you'll use a dual PC setup, or do you think you'll just go back to one?
Yeah, I'll do the dual setup. I mean, I don't know how much difference it made in terms of the visual quality, but it does take it takes a load off of my main PC. And furthermore, if I have to restart my main PC, then I can do so without having to stop the stream. I mean, I did end up having to restart. At one point, Streamlabs froze up on me on my secondary PC, so I ended up having to restart that after all. And that was halfway through my last 8 hours. But otherwise, the one I can't. I think I had to restart probably once, or I might have restarted once for my main computer, and it did I mean, of course, it didn't affect the stream. I could still do the stream. I just had to, wait like a minute for it to do its full restart. So, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I would probably do that, especially because it's like, well, I know that it's not that difficult to do, and I have everything I need to do it. I already have the cable running to this room, so because I decided not to move that cable, and instead I bought a second cable. I bought an extra 75-foot cable that I can run to the other room, so that there will be one still connected to the computer in there. Then I don't have to move it. And something that I am going to do probably next weekend, since I want to try to get the Persona 5 thing put together this weekend, is I need to like get my Ethernet cables fastened to the wall, because when I originally set them up, because it's like I had to do about 75 feet to get from the router to my computer in here, as well as from the router to the computer in the front room. What I did originally was I got like these plastic covers that go on the Ethernet cables. It's like plastic housing, but it was adhesive, so it would stick to the wall, and it worked fine for a little bit, but then the adhesive started to wear off, and it's just been a mess for a long time. But it's one of those things where I needed to get something I could use to actually do it differently, and I wasn't sure what to do, so ultimately I decided on getting these clips. And it's like you just nail them to the wall, and you wrap the cable in, and so I have like 200 of these things, which should be, I think, enough to do both cables, and that are all three cables. And then hopefully it'll be neater and less of a trip hazard and all that. So.
Okay, nice.
Oh, and one last thing I just want to mention. I already told you about this, but for anyone listening, I did get into the Destiny Rising Alpha. Doesn't start till Friday, but I will definitely be. I have it downloaded, and I'll be checking it out on Friday. And I don't think there's going to be a way for me to like live stream it, but I'll try to see if I can record some footage at least, and then that way I can post it on the channel and show what it looks like, how it runs, all that, and probably do like some type of commentary on it, some basic impressions.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got. All right, you got any other thoughts?
No, sir.
Well, let's get into the news. So I think the first thing I want to talk about, just because I'm super excited about it. So, what was it? It was, yesterday or the day before? I think that was yesterday. It was yesterday. It was Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, Nintendo dropped a surprise trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And I literally, when I saw it in my YouTube feed, I audibly gasped. I was like, I was so excited because I love this game. And I've been waiting for them to bring it over for a long time. Like, I had considered off and on trying to just emulate the Wii U version on my Steam Deck, which would work fine. But, like, I really would have just preferred having a physical version of the game, especially because the Wii U version I only have digitally. And, I wanted a way to play it on a modern device without having to, go the emulation route. And here it is. I mean, it's now with this one coming to the Switch on March 20th. I just realized I'm already talking about my thoughts about this whole thing. I guess I'll back up and talk about that more later. But with this coming to the Switch, this will make it so that every single Xenoblade game will be on Switch. And that's pretty cool. So I'll get back into my thoughts, but let you have a chance to talk about it for your thoughts first.
Yeah, so it's definitely neat that this has finally come over. It's considering the fact that what Xenoblade Chronicles 1 came out 2-3 years ago for the Switch, and or
It was 2020.
2020, so 4 years ago, and they considering the fact that they ported over other Wii U games, the fact that they didn't port over Xenoblade Chronicles X definitely is a bit baffling, but as you said, now all the Xenoblade games are available on one platform, which is definitely pretty cool. Now, Chronicles X was the first Xenoblade game that I played, and I remembered getting excited for the game, and I went ahead when it was available and I bought the special edition, and I played it. I really liked what I played. The problem was, and this is something that's partially has to do with the time of things, is the fact that it was when I was starting to when I started more to play, or trying to play it in handheld form. So I was primarily playing a lot on just the tablet. But the problem is with the fact is the Wii U tablet has a horrible battery life. So whenever I wanted to play it like in bed, I had to charge up the gamepad like beforehand, essentially, because of the fact that I was not going to get a long playtime doing it that way. Now, sure, sometimes I did play it on my TV screen, but sometimes I really just liked having that handheld playability. So because of that, unfortunately, I didn't get too far into the game. Like, I don't think I finished like the main, I guess you could say, first chapter of the game.
Wow.
But what I did play of it, I really enjoyed, I really liked, and it's really just a shame. I think that I didn't really get all that far into it, but the fact that we have a new version is pretty cool. I really like that. I really like that, and so I'll see what happens. I'll see what happens there. Now, one thing that maybe it could be something with some sort of buffering or whatnot, but a couple times during the trailer they showed, it looked like there was a little bit of stuttering. Which maybe it's just the way things are rendering on my end, but I was just a tad bit concerned about that, but I don't think overall there were too many issues I saw with that. Now, one last thing that I thought that was pretty cool is, and considering the fact that this is, I believe, should have all the DLC included, is I saw something posted, I believe on one of my Discord servers, is that the file size for Chronicles X Definitive version is actually smaller than the Wii U version, which, wow. I mean, I definitely believe that there have been some enhancements to the visuals and graphics and whatnot, so it's pretty cool then if the game with the DLC is smaller than the original Wii U game. That I thought was pretty cool. But with that being said, that is everything that I have on my mind, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, first of all, I gotta ask, did you ever think about plugging in your gamepad while you were in bed?
I did. The problem was, unfortunately, where I had my outlet, especially with the power strip located, it was a bit too far, so I would have to be playing over the edge of my bed if it was connected.
All right. That works.
But yeah, I did try it a couple times, because especially when I was playing some other Wii U games, I was like, yeah, I want to play this in handheld mode, or what was considered a handheld mode at the time before we got the Switch, but it wasn't completely viable.
All right, so let's see here. I'm trying to think of where I want to start with this. I mean, as I mentioned before, obviously I was super excited when I saw this trailer, because I absolutely love this game. I did not 100% it, but I did complete the story and did a handful of the side stuff and everything. And just this is, like, in my opinion, this is probably peak in terms of gameplay for Xenoblade for the most part. 3 might beat it out, which is saying a lot because, I mean, 3 of course also has an excellent story, whereas X does not. X's story was pretty weak and was definitely shorter. But like, just there's so many things I love about X. Most of all, it's the exploration. It just really has the XPloration. It has it has a massive open world. Your movement is considerably faster because you can actually sprint, which you can't do in the other Xenoblade games, and all of the numbered ones. You don't take fall damage at all, which is a very nifty feature. And then you also have the skells, which are like the mechs that you get. And you don't get those until it's roughly about 30 hours into the game that you actually get them. But, I mean, your movement is still really good, even on foot, because you can sprint, and so you move really fast, and you can jump really high, and you don't take fall damage, no matter how high you fall from. And so just all those things together are excellent. The music is incredible. The only thing I will say is that I think the battle themes are probably the weakest part of this game, with the exception of the unique boss fight theme, Uncontrollable, which is in a fantastic song. But like, this one has a lot of vocal pieces to it. More of the songs have vocals than any of the other Xenoblade games. And it's Hiroyuki Sawano is the composer for this. But seriously, like, the soundtrack is amazing, especially the overworld themes. I think this one has the best overworld themes of all the games. Because like Chronicles has some great, I mean, all of them have great themes here and there, but I think X has the most excellent of all the overworld themes, whereas the other Xenoblade games have the best battle themes. So, all that being said, I don't know, there's just a lot of different things I can gush about with this game. The differences in the visuals were very noticeable. Of course, the biggest thing being the character models are much better than they were in the original game, because before they really just everyone looked like dolls, and it's kind of jarring. Like, I didn't mind the art style, but it was just the way, I don't know, it was just weird. And I mean, there's still some of that in this, but like they fixed especially the main characters, which is really nice. All of them look a lot better. I watched a side-by-side comparison trailer looking at this and the Wii U version, and the Wii U version has very much a brown tint to everything, and this one does not. And so it's like much more colorful as a result. Like, I remembered the Wii U version being really colorful. And it technically is, but when you compare the two side by side, the Wii U version definitely has a very, like, a brown filter over the video, and, you know, over the entire game. And I'll be playing some footage that I have recorded from the Wii U version here, from like later game post story. I mean, it's not spoiling anything, of course, because it's just general fighting enemies in the overworld. But yeah, I'm super excited about this. One of the things that I mean, there's definitely some things that I hope that they will update and or just completely change. But one thing I do want to note, this is just a big thing for me and for most of us who are fans of the game, of the original game, is that this one is going to have additional story content, which, based on the teaser, the end of the trailer teaser they had, looks like it's going to pick up from where the cliffhanger left off in the original game, which is fantastic, because it's like, that's one aspect of the story that was just like a huge cliffhanger. We never got a sequel, we never got any like story DLC, nothing like that. And so getting that is super exciting. And I'm really looking forward to it. But the things that I would like to see changed that they haven't confirmed one way or the other, apart from them adding the additional story, which they've already said that they're going to have additional story, they just haven't clarified what specifically that's going to look like. I want them to, number one, above all else, make it so that when you are flying in your Skell, you can turn off the song that plays during that time. Because the song is not a bad song. It's actually a pretty good song. But the problem is that when you start flying, it always starts the song at the very beginning, and it cuts off the overworld music. And most of the time, I just want to keep listening to the overworld music. Like, it was really cool to hear that song the very first time you get in the Skell and start flying. Like, that's super cool. But after that, I'm just like, I could go without it. I'd much rather listen to the overworld themes, because the overworld themes are so good. So I hope that they change that, or at least make that possible. But otherwise, like, they don't have to do a ton with this game in order for it to be good. Of course, I wish it would be 60 frames per second, but I know it won't be unless they do like a patch for the Switch 2 version that makes it possible, which quite honestly could almost convince me to buy a Switch 2. Or at least, to buy it before the OLED version comes out. But it's just like, this is a massive game, and regardless of how much they add to it, like, there's a lot of stuff I never did in the original game. Mostly side stuff, super bosses, that sort of thing. And I would very much like to just spend a lot more time on it. Plus, I mean, it's coming out almost 10 years after... I mean, technically, it's right about 10 years after it originally came out in Japan. And... because it came out in Japan in April of 2015, and then the US in December. And I'm happy to start from scratch. I actually would kind of rather, because like there were a couple times here and there where I tried going back and playing some more of the game, after having already finished the story, just to do some DLC and everything. And it just like, I don't know if I really want to do this right now. Like, I kind of would rather just, I just, like, I don't want to start over from scratch, or I didn't want to start over from scratch on the Wii U version because of how much time I'd put into it already. But I also didn't really want to grind to get myself ready to do the other stuff. And so I ended up just not doing that ever. But, I very much am looking forward to playing this again. I just wish it was 60 frames. But I think that there are plenty of potential ways that they could make this game better than it was in the original, apart from the things we already know that they're doing, which is, adding the story DLC, fixing the character models, and that sort of thing. But I'm sure there will be some quality of life improvements that will make it even better. And they'll probably still maintain all the things that were great about it in the first place. But I think that's really about all I have to say.
Yeah, I want to add one last comment, and something that you brought up that I had no clue about, and that is the fact that there's no fall damage.
Yeah.
Because I spent so much time trying to backtrack, especially if I went up a high slope. And I thought, oh man, I went the wrong way. I need to go back. And so I backtracked completely. And now I realize I could have just jumped and would have been fine.
Yep.
So that's definitely something I will keep in mind for the future. If I get back into the game, is to just leap and not waste time going backwards.
Right. One thing I do want to note for anybody who is on the fence about whether or not they would want to play this because they're afraid of having to worry about having never played like the other Xenoblade games, you do not this one has no connection story-wise at all to the other Xenoblade games. So you can play this without ever having touched the other games, and you won't have any problems at all with it from that standpoint. So Plus, like I said, the story, you have to go into this, especially if you're someone who's played the other Xenoblade games and really enjoys the story. You have to go into this knowing that the story is nowhere near, well, the main story on its own, without doing a bunch of side stuff, is nowhere near as deep or as enthralling, I guess you could say, as the other Xenoblade stories. Like, it still has some twists and turns, and it's still interesting in its own right, but compared to the other Xenoblade games, it's much less the emphasis. The gameplay is like much more the emphasis of this game than anything else. And something that's also good to know is that this is the game that helped Breath of the Wild become what it was, because it was what they did with this game that they used to help when they helped, because they helped make Breath of the Wild, and what made it such, that open world masterpiece that it ended up being. So that's something good. They still are saying that this is an independent story, but based on something that I saw in the trailer, they may be retconning some stuff to where this could end up being connected to the other Xenoblade games. I don't know if that's going to happen. And I would say that even if it does, it shouldn't really matter whether you've played the other games. But, because, you got to keep in mind, this game came out second. It was the one that came out after the first Xenoblade Chronicles, before they had, the continuation of a story that, continued with 2 and 3 that were connected, just not, like, they weren't sequels per se, but they were. It's hard to explain without spoiling anything. So, yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say on that matter, though. I guess I do have one last thing that I hope that they fix, and that is making it so that there's actual, like, collisions with the cars instead of just being able to walk right through them when you're in New LA. Because you literally could just run right through them, and they don't stop. You can't walk on top of them or anything. They just stay there and you run right through them. No collision detection whatsoever. But yeah, that's all I got. All right.
Nothing additional for me.
Sounds good. All right. You want to cover this story about PlayStation shutting down the studios?
Yeah, so what was it? Was this today? Was that the other day? Let me just confirm that. So it was yesterday, or as of the recording of this, or when this video goes out, Tuesday. Sony Interactive Entertainment sent out a letter from an internal email from Herman Holst to the company, to the public, and he said their team today went to share some important updates from Sony IE, and then he went further on, and he said that due to some issues, or due to evaluating some stuff in their portfolio, they said, we have made the difficult decision regulating 2 of our studios, Neon Koei and Firewalk Studios. Expanding beyond PlayStation devices and crafting engaging online experiences alongside our single-player games are key focal areas for us as we evolve our revenue streams. We need to be strategic, though, in bringing our games to new platforms and recognize when our games fall short of meeting player expectations. While mobile remains a priority growth area for the studio business, we are in the very early stage of our mobile efforts. To achieve success in this area, we need to concentrate on titles that are in line with PlayStation Studios' pedigree and have the potential to reach more players globally. With this refocused approach, Neon Koei will close, and its mobile action game will not be moving forward. I want to express my gratitude to everyone at Neon Koei for their hard work and endless passion to innovate. Regarding Firewalk, as announced in early September, and they're going to this, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We've spent considerable time these past few months exploring our other options. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. And that is pretty much everything else. There's some more stuff here, but that is the main point of this email, and that is the fact that Yankoi is being shut down along with Firewalk, and Concord, even though there was some speculation, is not coming back in a shape or form, even as a free-to-play game. I have thoughts on this, but I will hear yours first.
All right, so as far as Neon Koei goes, we don't really know what they were working on. I'm very curious what it was. But Firewalk and Concord just going away completely, like not even coming back as a free-to-play. I'm pretty sure we called that. We just figured that it was just done and it wasn't coming back, and it's like Sony apparently spent around $400 million making this game. There were some people who were trying to convince them that this was not going to be successful, but they were convinced it was going to be the next Star Wars. It was going to be their Star Wars and that it was going to be huge, and it was not at all. And now, we already had, obviously, the studio. We already had the game go offline 2 weeks after it came out. And the fact that it's not even coming back as free to play, like, that's pretty much what we said would happen, is that they weren't going to bring it back at all, that they were just going to take the loss, not take the risk. And I mean, the thing about this that is both sad and funny is that this game was actually somewhat different from all the other stuff they've been putting out. But like with so many other things, they just gave up on it super fast. And this has been a pattern for Sony for a while. I mean, the fact that they shut down Japan Studio some years ago, I don't even remember when that was. I want to say it was 2021. But it's like, what are you doing, Sony? Why do you feel the need to do this? I mean, yeah, Concord, like, I thought it looked okay, but it was not my kind of game. But it still was, I mean, especially the more as we saw, like, the terrible character designs. Some of them were just absolutely horrendous, and just the fact that they were trying to do a paid hero shooter so many years later was a mistake. So many years after Overwatch, and not doing it free to play, not taking the wise route, which probably actually would have made it do significantly better, but they didn't want to take that risk. And now it's like, now it's just gone. It's not coming back at all. And I don't even know what else to say. I think that it's disappointing that Sony went this direction. Not that I wanted to play Concord, because I really didn't. But I don't know. This is just like, I'm just going to keep repeating myself. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely not surprised that Concord is done and gone for. I'm just kind of surprised that they shut down Firewalk. I was not completely expecting that, and I definitely was not expecting Yankoi. In fact, I never even heard of that company until this
Right.
message went out, and I was even looking up trying to figure out, oh, who are they? What did they do? And I was, oh, they were working mobile games. Well, what did they work on? And I didn't really see anything, which really makes you, like you said, wonder what game were they working on, and why did they even
Maybe it was
shut
a
it down?
Concord mobile game.
Oh gosh. Oh man, that wow, yeah, that would be something. And also think on that, and on that, weren't they also trying to make a whole sort of expanded universe for Concord
Yep.
too? Yeah, and so now that's pretty much obliterated, even though there's I guess that cameo or whatnot in the Amazon video game series, that's sort of like an amalgamation of all different type of game franchises. So that's gonna be the last thing that is ever released with Concord in it. But yeah, I'm definitely not surprised that the game got permanently shut down. I feel kind of bad for Nihon Koei because, again, we don't know what they were working on, and to have the game suddenly pulled out of them and they're shut down, we don't know what they're working on, so I can't really say that it would have been good or if it would have been bad. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to lose sleep over Firewalk, considering some of the statements that came from the team. Anyone who hated on Concord, bunch of talentless freaks, saying that eventually, with the way gamers aren't buying some of their games, eventually there will be no more games to play. Well, we're kind of down one now, I'd say. So I'm not too upset on that aspect, but I do agree with you. The one sort of downside to this is the fact that Sony actually did try something different, and they abandoned that, which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, even though there's the running gag about Sony only doing third-person, over-the-shoulder action adventure games with stealth elements, this is the one time they sort of broke out of that mold. Now, granted, earlier this year, they broke out of that mold with Helldivers 2. Mm-hmm. And that, though, was successful. Granted, they had a lot to work on with the PSN requirements and how that, flooded a whole lot of backlash. But besides that, though, that was a huge success. So, hopefully they'll definitely learn from this in a whole lot of aspects and use it to improve their products moving forward. And I mean, I don't know what type of mobile game they're working on, but I mean, I wouldn't get it anyway because I'm not a mobile gamer, but there definitely is a market for it. I mean, considering the fact that mobile is the largest gaming market, and I mean, I feel like part of it is because of some of the outlandish monetization practices going on out there that are manipulative, but it is still the largest gaming market, period, than even consoles and PC combined. So, I feel like maybe they might go back into it. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have on that.
Yeah, I just had this image in my head of, with the developer who was calling all gamers talentless freaks who didn't like the game. Just thinking of the Joker thing. You get what you effing deserve. Gamers being Joker, and then that developer being the host of that show. Anyway. Yeah, that's about all I got to say on that. I don't really have any other thoughts. Obviously, I hope, for the developers that they are able to land on their feet, whether that's continuing to work for Sony under, different studios or some other capacity. Don't want anyone to lose their jobs, but also, well, apart from the person who called gamers talentless freaks, she can take her loss. She gets what she deserves. She got what she deserves. And, yeah, that's not the kind of person you want to have working for you anyway. Someone who's going to insult your customer base. It's like, that's not smart. It's like your main customer base and you insult them. That's a very stupid decision. So you got what you deserved. Not saying that anybody else in the company deserved that, because I think for the most part, they probably were not of the same opinion as that particular person. But that one person got what they deserved. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, moving on into our next story. This is another positive one that I am... Well, I guess I should say it's more or less positive. So, Nintendo just dropped an app called Nintendo Music. And this is a mobile app that allows people to listen to a variety of music from a bunch of Nintendo franchises, and Yeah, I mean it's available now. I think it should be available both on iOS and Android. Um, the only thing is you do have to have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription in order to use this app. So, um, as far as what all is included in it, I'm not 100% sure. I know that like it's starting off with a selection of music, and that they'll add more as time goes on. Um, Consider the fact that there is currently no way to actually buy Nintendo soundtracks. This is a way that you can listen to what, in many cases, is some fantastic music. I don't know that they have, like, I don't see anything to indicate that they have, like, Xenoblade music on there, but you can buy Xenoblade soundtracks. So there's at least that. Um, but yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this definitely was an out of the blue thing. I feel like to some degree, Nintendo is sort of sucker punching us with unexpected news. First Alarmo, and now the app. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting and kind of cool that they have this thing, but the fact that, I mean, essentially this is just an offshoot version of, say, Spotify, or something like that, where I can't remember if at some point Nintendo's music was on Spotify. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I even touched Spotify, so I don't know. But so on one hand, I'm just like, having a dedicated app for something that could have already done something is odd. I mean, also, I mean, I think it's kind of cool that they have some playlists that are already sort of pre-made, based upon stuff like if you want a boss battle, if you want something more calm, if you want something more with a faster tempo, something like that. That's pretty nice. But I feel like some aspects are, I feel like they're not really necessary. And as you mentioned, while a lot of games haven't had official soundtracks, there are some that have received soundtracks. Like Zelda did have a soundtrack, Breath of the Wild. In fact, a good portion of these Zelda games did have soundtracks released every now and then. A few Xenoblade Chronicles games had soundtracks, even if they were only, I think, with the special editions. Like X had it with the flash drive. Chronicles 2 had one.
Well, all of the Xenoblade games have soundtracks you can purchase.
Okay.
Because I have all of them.
Okay. So on one hand, I feel like, and I guess partially this is my mindset, I would much rather have a CD to buy and just rip the music and put it on my phone than have to use an app. And I mean, especially considering the fact that, I mean, sure, you can download music. They did say you could download music, but I feel like it's the same thing, sort of like with YouTube Premium, or Spotify, where even if you download it, it's not or like even like say also with Amazon Music, it's not something that you really download and you can use and keep. It's something that eventually that DRM is going to kick in, and you have to either connect to the service or it's just not going to work anymore. So I don't know. And then the fact that also you have to have a Nintendo Switch Online account or to use it. So like, say for example, you're someone who doesn't care for the Switch, or you don't have any interest in buying it, but you're like, say you like Nintendo Music, you'd have to pay for an online service that you aren't really going to use just to listen to the music. And I think that tying that there is pretty, it's unnecessary. I mean, sure, some people would say if you have a Switch and you're already paying for online, that's just an extra benefit. But I really feel like looking at it from another aspect is the fact that maybe some people just don't have a Switch or care to own one, but they really like the music from Nintendo games. Then you're paying $20+ for something that, might not necessarily be that worth it. So yeah, I it's an intriguing idea, but it's definitely not for me. And
Right.
I mean, I don't have a Nintendo Switch Online account, so I'm not going to be getting this. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So, I'll say a couple things. For one, with the soundtracks, you can get physical versions because it's what I have. I have physical versions of all soundtracks. I have the CDs for Chronicles Definitive Edition, Chronicles X, Chronicles 2, and Chronicles 3. So you can get soundtracks for those, and that's exactly what I did. I had the physical soundtracks, ripped them in uncompressed wave format so that I could have those on my phone, and just on my computer in general, which is how we have that music included in the podcast from time to time. In terms of the value added proposition, I think it's one of those things where, like, if you already have the subscription, I think it's like, okay, you're already paying for this, then it's no problem. Then I think it's good from that standpoint, because then at least you're getting more for your money, assuming they don't raise the price by including this. But I still personally, I would much rather than just make it possible to buy many of these soundtracks. Preferably physical, but even digital would be better than nothing. Because it's like, I don't think I'm going to even bother with this app. I just don't see the point. Like, I don't listen to music on its own a whole lot anyway. I mostly listen to like podcasts and YouTube stuff, things like that. So like I listen to that stuff more anyway, but when I listen to music, I literally have thousands of video game songs alone on my phone. That's not even counting all the other stuff I have. When I count all the music I have, I probably have around at least 5,000 to 10,000 songs on my phone. And it's like, the vast majority of them in an uncompressed wave format. And, like I got plenty to listen to, and I got my favorite soundtracks on there for the most part. But yeah, it's just, I think that it's one of those things that I would never ever recommend that someone gets Nintendo Switch Online just for this. At least it seems like it's only the base version of the subscription, but maybe I better actually take a look at that again, because I might have actually seen something about. Oh, so I think what it is that the base version is it's something, of course, you can have the music. You can use the app if you have the base version of Nintendo Switch Online. If you have the family version of Nintendo Switch Online, which is the more expensive one, then anybody in your family can also use it. So that's cool from that standpoint. At least there's that. But yeah, it's just, I think probably the only thing that I really think is great about this is that it does have the option to extend the length of any song. So, like, for example, if you wanted to play the Me Maker music, you could have that extended for 60 minutes. And it's just continuously doing the thing. Like, if you just want to listen to that music, it's like, hey, that's great. It's cool. You can do that, or Hyrule Field theme, or, something from Animal Crossing, so on and so forth. You can extend all these. But yeah, I don't know. It is, as one person put it, it's a really great idea released by Nintendo about a decade or so too late. Yeah. It's like, if Nintendo had just made it possible for people to buy the music, obviously the reason that they didn't do it was because of the fact that they wanted to be able to keep you from being able to play it and to charge you for it. But the funny thing also is that, like, while there was a long period of time where you couldn't use your music and their music in like your YouTube videos and that sort of thing, they don't copyright claim on it anymore. They let people use their music freely. in YouTube videos and all that. I mean, it might be different if you're just doing the music, but at least I never get copyright claims on Nintendo songs when I use them. I only get copyright claims from like pretty much anything that comes from Warner. Sometimes Sony. It just depends. I usually try to keep the levels balanced enough to where it's quiet enough to where it's not automatically picking it up and then it's not doing the copyright claim. And even when it does do the copyright claim, most of the time I can submit a counter, or I mean like a dispute the claim, and then they won't ever respond, and then the copyright claim gets released. I will say one thing that is annoying is occasionally I'll get a copyright claim on a song, but the copyright claim is from someone who did a cover of a song, and I'm not even using the cover of the song. I'm using the original version of the song, and I'm getting a copyright claim. It's like, I'm not using your version. I'm not using your recording. I'm using the original version of the song. It's mostly been like some Octopath Traveler music that I've used, that Family Jewels, who's, does like rock and heavy metal covers of a bunch of video game music. I'll get copyright claims from his. And I know it's not like him personally doing it. It's, whatever service is used for that. And so far, every time I've gotten a copyright claim, I dispute it. They never fight it, and it just goes away. But it's like, I don't even have the option to select, this is not their version of the song. They do not have any claim over this. This is a song that was composed by someone completely different. I'm not using this person's cover. I'm using the original version of the song. And if Sony wants to do a claim against it because Sony owns the rights to that music because it's published through them, that's one thing. But when it's someone they don't own the rights to the music, they own the rights to their recording, and that's it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Got way off topic, but as an overall thing, I think this is okay, but I don't think it's revolutionary. I think if you already have Nintendo Switch Online and you want to listen to some Nintendo music without having to dig all over the place in order to find it, then it can be nice. But if you don't already have Nintendo Switch Online, don't get it for this. And I don't think you should pay Nintendo for this stuff when you can find Nintendo music online for free. And if Nintendo really wants money for it, they can sell the soundtracks. Make it possible for people to buy them. And they would make a whole lot more money out of it anyway. Granted, it wouldn't be recurring revenue like they get from Switch Online, but I mean, you charge $10 a soundtrack, people will buy it. Hands down. I can think of a handful of those soundtracks that I would actually buy too, like Splatoon. Great music in those games. Especially the first one. The first one, well, that's the one where I remember the music the most of those three, because I haven't played the third one. But anyway, that's enough of that. You got any other thoughts on that?
No, sir.
All right, you want to talk about this whole thing with Denuvo?
All right, so recently, and I don't know when this actually happened exactly, but Denuvo created a Discord server, sort of to act as a bit of, I guess you could say, PR or public, just like some PR. So that way they can interact with PC gamers can interact with them, maybe have some good time, have a few laughs. Well, shortly after that Discord server went up, it got shut down because they received, as they put it, inappropriate content. And that led to Andreas Ullman, let me make sure I have that last name right, who serves as the spokesperson for Denuvo. Make sure, Andreas Ullman, who also acts as a product manager, and he said that this is the result of toxicity from PC gamers, and essentially he said that they will not stop letting every claim about our product being Denuvo go unanswered, and even saying that, talking about the community, it's basically really about the stuff that's posted by the community. You just need to check out Steam forums, for example. Very toxic, very hostile environments. He claims that he doesn't want to leave the floor to these people, being PC gamers, who are posting all things about them anymore. And he even went on to deflect for cases like Resident Evil Village and Tekken 7, saying that due to something with the source code for Tekken 7, or due to other protection measures that were not related to Denuvo, and that's the reason why there were performance issues going on for that. And he said that what was the last thing here that I mentioned? He said that, oh man, what was this? There's a very good part. Yes, saying about piracy, and saying that our solution simply works. Pirates cannot play games which are using our solution over quite long time periods, usually until the publisher decides to patch out our solution. And he says that there's a huge community of players who are not willing to part with the cash to play the games they went to, and quote, therefore they have a lot of time to spend in communities and share their view and try to blame Denuvo, end quote. Now, I obviously have some stuff to say, but I really want you to go out there before I start being toxic.
Well. So this is like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. I think I had something on the tip of my brain earlier and I've already forgotten it, but Denuvo. Okay, well, first of all, I do want to say the argument of piracy, this is like the PlayStation fanboys arguing against PC gamers argument. This is like, hey, they just want to pirate everything. That's what it is. Brah. They don't want to because they didn't want to be pirates. Brah. But that's not it at all. Because when Denuvo causes such severe performance issues on these games, it's like people who want to spend the money on the games getting worse performance than people who pirate the games. Or people having to find ways to crack their purchased versions of the games so that they don't have to deal with the terrible stuff with Denuvo. It's just like the meme goes, from The Simpsons. Is it me that's mistaken? No, it's the kids that are wrong. And like, they just have no self-awareness whatsoever, and they assume that, oh, everybody just wants to pirate these games. And it's like, no, we just want to be able to play the game without losing a bunch of performance. We don't want our games to perform like trash because you happen to add this for people who were never going to buy your game in the first place. And then most of the time, Denuvo gets cracked. People get free of it completely. And then they wonder why people want to pirate their games. It's like, Denuvo is terrible. I mean, I remember there was that point, I'm pretty sure it was with Denuvo, when for a little bit Monster Hunter Rise just stopped working altogether. It just wasn't working at all because of whatever they put in, whether it was Denuvo or something else. I'm pretty sure it was Denuvo. And once they did whatever they needed to do to fix it, then it started working again. And of course, as the example that you gave in your video that you just put out today, Monster Hunter Wilds, the requirements to get 60 frames per second on medium settings requires using upscaling. And yes, probably some of that is a matter of laziness, but probably a lot of it is because Denuvo is completely tanking the performance. And oh, I know. So Denuvo complaining about gamers being toxic is like an IRS agent going around wondering why people don't like them. It's like, you're actively stealing from me, so you wonder why I don't like you. And that's essentially what Denuvo is doing, is they're stealing a good, solid amount of performance in a game by adding DRM that makes it perform worse. It's like, you're ripping me off with this nonsense. I don't think I have anything else to say on the matter, though. I think that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that analogy. I love that. That really fits Denuvo perfectly to a T. And also, just thinking about this now for additional context with Monster Hunter Wilds, the recommended settings that get you the 1080p 60 FPS with, as you mentioned, upscaling frame generation enabled, it requires an RTX 2070 or an RTX 4060, or on the AMD side, RTX 4060 or RTX 2070. Oh, I'm sorry, Super, not just a base 2070 Super, base 2070, a 2070 Super, or an AMD RX 6700 XT. So, and then of course you have the CPUs being an Intel i5 11600K, or something like a Ryzen 5 3600X. So these aren't some budget PCs. Like, these are pretty reasonably decent, powerful PCs, and you need them to get 1080p 60 FPS on medium settings with frame generation, and then you want to slap Denuvo on top of that?
Yeah.
That is a recipe for disaster right there. And I mean, I wish these publishers realized that you're going to, if people wanted to pirate their game, they're going to pirate the game. No Denuvo was going to say, oh man, guys, I would have pirated this game, but there's Denuvo, so now I'm not going to buy it. I don't want to have to pirate the game now. No, if they, like you said, they pirate the game, if they want to, if they're going to do that, they're going to do it anyway. But if they want to get better performance out of the game, it's better to play the pirated version of the game, buy the game and then get a cracked version or crack it themselves, and then they can get the better performance, which I don't see how they're not putting two and two together. And, again, as you mentioned, outside of just the fact that of the performance issues, Denuvo has done other stuff. Like, I covered this several years ago, but there was a period, I think this was over a weekend, or if not longer than that, Denuvo servers were not working correctly. So because of that, every game that had Denuvo on it would not run. Like, you could not play your games if it had Denuvo because of the servers. And you wonder why people hate Denuvo. It's the fact that they have a stranglehold on your games. Like, and that's another reason, is the fact that if a game has Denuvo on it, you truly can't say you own it. Just because of the fact that you have that DRM baked in there. So unless the publisher decides to remove Denuvo later on, which many of them do, you're pretty much strong-armed into a lose-lose situation. And so it's really interesting that Denuvo tries to paint themselves in a good light, acting as if they're a martyr and, they're just being wrongfully persecuted by the hateful PC masses who are just so toxic. And I'm just like, you made this toxic situation. You came in here, no one asked to have this in their game. Someone said, man, you know what I would really love right now? If my game had performance issues in it. Because, I really cannot stand the fact that my game is running well right now. I really hate this. I wish that someone would come along and make my games run horribly. And I wish that if something ever happened to a server, I would not be able to play these games. I wish someone would invent a solution to that right now. Denuvo? Why, thank you. This is exactly what I wanted. Like, no, we didn't ask for this. And I wish that more publishers would see this. Like, of course, some publishers, especially if you're on the indie end, you understand and you're like, you really want to, you know, be on the good side of gamers. And, you know, especially if you're an indie dev who is a gamer yourself, you understand why gamers don't like DRM in the game. So there are publishers who, you know, release their games even on Steam without DRM on them because they were like, yeah, I mean, if people are going to pirate the game, they're going to pirate the game anyway. But, you know, I'm not going to ruin their fun and also have that possibly impact my sales because I am concerned about piracy. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I really just wish that more publishers were of this mindset. Now, like, on one hand, I will partially agree with the Denuvo anti-cheat. Like, if you're playing a multiplayer game, you know, having some sort of anti-cheat in place is understandable because, you know, you don't want cheaters messing up an experience for everyone. But with the single-player games, though, having an anti-tamper, having some sort of DRM is not going to make things fun for us. So, yeah. That's. I mean, I feel like I would just keep going in circles at this point, but yeah, I'm proud to be one of the toxic gamers that Denuvo says I am.
Indeed. Yeah, I don't have any other thoughts either. All right. Well, we just got one more story that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is a new FTC ruling regarding review bombing that has come out. Now, our friends at the FTC, friends in quotes, are trying to do something to keep people from speaking their minds. So let me read this article from DualShockers. The FTC has issued a new set of rules covering reviews, and it may just have outlawed review bombing in the process. As per the FTC chair, the change aims to ban fake online reviews and testimonials, with 6 final rules the Commission hopes will make users able to make a more informed decision based on peer feedback. Most of the new FTC rules cover more traditional cases of review manipulation, but it is the first ruling that should raise alarm in gaming circles. Review bombing may fall under fake or false consumer reviews, potentially robbing players of an increasingly common method of leverage against studios and publishers. Review manipulation has been around for as long as review sites have existed. Sometimes the company owner drops enthusiastic praise for their enterprise, and other times it is saying how awful a competitor is. The 6 new FTC rules aim to distill reviews into authentic ones only. The first and most important rule for gaming covers The first and most important ruling for gaming covers fake or false consumer reviews, consumer testimonials, and celebrity testimonials. It outlaws reviews generated by someone who does not exist, such as AI-generated fake reviews, but also covers people who did not have actual experience with the product or, crucially, misrepresent the experience. Calling upon a community to drop negative reviews to protest a new change, as was the case with Helldivers 2, may fall under this ruling. The second rule bans buying positive or negative reviews, wherein buying means offering expressly or implicitly both financial compensation or other incentives conditioned on the writing of consumer reviews. A few developers may need to reread this one to let it sink in, as the practice of offering new content or perks if the game reaches a certain number of reviews is not unheard of. Insider reviews and consumer testimonials are also on the hook, unless the person posting the review discloses their relationship with the product. This extends to the immediate family of employees. So long 5-star reviews by Jeff from accounting and his wife Linda. Or rather, so long 5-star reviews from Jeff from accounting and his wife Linda. Conglomerates that own both media and game development companies are also under fire. Company-controlled review websites cannot claim their reviews and opinions on a product are independent. How much disclosure is required is unclear. If it was not obvious, review suppression via intimidation is now prohibited. This includes legal and physical threats or accusations against someone. The gaming industry has been rocked by scandals where journalists, content creators, So, for expressing negative opinion on certain titles, so this change is a welcome protection. Last but not least, misuse of fake social media indicators is now prohibited, including both buying and selling followers and engagement. Considering how endemic bots and followers are on certain platforms like Twitter/X, it is unclear how the FTC aims to curb this. But, if enforced to the letter, this FTC ruling relegates review bombing to the past. During its life, the practice has been controversial. Some defend it as the only leverage the average player has against a stubborn game dev or publisher, while others say it is deceiving to prospective players looking for earnest reviews and prone to rage baiting. Whichever way it goes, it looks like user reviews will become more human, and that can only be a good thing. So I certainly have some thoughts on this. Why don't you start us off?
All right, so I think that this is something that is unfortunately just another example of overreach. Now, I do think that there are cases where there are definitely a whole lot of botted reviews, whether it's good or bad. I mean, I think Metacritic is a good example of this. But the thing is, as much as I feel like there are a lot of botted reviews, I still would not want that to necessarily go away. I really feel like having the freedom to express your voice is something that is truly important. And this is just this is a huge regulatory overstepping of bounds to restrict what you can say or not say. And, who's to say? I mean, I feel like if you leave a review that's critical, even if you go into detail, what if someone said, "Oh, you're just parroting someone else's opinion," or this is really just a troll review or something like that. Like if someone said, "Oh, I can argue that this review isn't legitimate," even if the review is legitimate, just because it's a disagreeing opinion.
Right.
Like, I definitely do not like that at all. And something I thought about is this is a very similar example to what YouTube did with removing the dislike button. Like, sure, were some videos unjustly downvoted? Yes. But at the same time, the downvotes served a reason. They served a purpose. And the best example I came up with this is the fact that with tutorial videos, a downvoted video shows you if that video is actually worth your time or not. And especially if you're doing something that's tech related, like say some sort of tutorial for setting something up on your computer or just doing something like that. Especially if the tutorial has you go to a website to download something that you do not know. Because comments in a video can be deleted, they could be botted. So, if someone says, "Oh, this was a good video, I liked it, this did a good job," sure, those could be real, those could be fake. Negative video comments can be deleted, but you cannot manipulate a dislike bar. So having that removed is a complete tragedy. And of course, we sort of know why YouTube did that because of stuff. But that's But I guess going back to the gaming aspect, though, while I do believe that there are some things that might be falsely review bombed, I do believe that, as the article said, this is a huge piece of leverage we have over companies to keep them accountable. Because, like with Helldivers, gamers review bombed that game on Steam, and as a result, Sony backtracked. Now, of course, they reinstated the requirements for PSN for all their other games, sadly. And unfortunately, also, gamers from countries who can't access PSN still can't play those games or play Helldivers 2. So that, unfortunately, is the thing. But, we got Sony to at least budge some on that aspect. So I think having that ability to review bomb games and to get these publishers to stop being stubborn is a great thing, and we should definitely have that there. But I think that Valve, I mean, I don't know how this works on consoles, and to my knowledge, at least with Nintendo, you don't have these features or aspects. But at least with Valve and Steam, for reviews on Steam, you can see how long someone's been playing a game.
Yep.
So you can see, if they only put in 20 minutes, if they put in a couple hours, if they put in 60 hours into a game. And you can also see how many hours they had when they left the review itself. So, they could have played some more and then came back and edited their review later on, which you can also see. And I think that's great. So you can know, hey, how much time does this person put into the game? And so, are they someone who's put some time into it so they know what to expect and they've put out a good, a well-formulated opinion? Or is this something that, yeah, I played for 5 minutes, here's my review of the game. I appreciate that with Valve. And of course, so you can definitely do that. And you can also see if someone received a product for free, which definitely, you can know, hey, is this something that could be swayed because they didn't pay for it, or if it was gifted, or if this was given to them, or, did they actually put money into this and, they have a bit of skin in the game, as it were. So I think Valve really handles it the best way. And I think that if other sites or forums like that, like say Metacritic, if you had to tie your account to whatever platform you're playing on, whether it be on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, etc., PC or whatnot, if they required that, you could get rid of a whole lot of negative reviews, and they could definitely be more authentic. But I definitely think banning review bombs outright is definitely ridiculous. I think that's going way too far. There's definitely no need to have that. And sure, with others, and I would actually argue, funny enough, that it's stuff outside of gaming that really has a greater that I'd say has more manipulation. Like, if you go to the Google Play Store, like this is the first thing that popped to my mind when I read this was the Google Play Store. With some of those apps, they are definitely a whole lot of reviews are definitely bots that are trying to bump up the ratings, especially if the apps just don't work all that well. Like, you can see, just like skim through several reviews and say, yeah, this is definitely, the way this is written is it's a bot. The grammar's not right, the sentence structure's not right. This is a bot, and it's just giving five stars. But yeah, and someone also, I think I saw somewhere post something like, well, what would this also entail for, like, say, sort of joke reviews, something like that. So like, I'm certain that some viewers, if you've been on PC, you might have seen some sort of joke reviews on Steam reviews for games, which, some of them are pretty basic, but some of them are actually, they get a good chuckle out of me every now and then. So would something like that count as, not a authentic review because it's just a little joke? I mean, sure, they might have enjoyed the game and they left something that's a little witty. Like, for example, when Sega put out the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, like, this was probably the only time I ever left a joke review. But my review for that game was just, Sega did what Nintendo didn't. And, like, just because, they, as the game stated, killed Sonic the Hedgehog. But, you'll see some reviews like that in certain games, and, even if something just like, something wacky happened in a game, and so they left a comment about that. Like, I feel like those type of reviews should still exist, because even if they aren't technically a real review, you can still see that if that someone put time into the game. You can still, and people also, I think this is another thing, is let people, this is also something that Valve does, which I also agree with, and I think other people should do, is allow the community to sort of curate reviews in a way, in the sense that you can click if a review was useful or not. Like, that's something you can definitely do, and Valve allows you to sort of like reward reviews as well, which, I mean, I don't know if that technically will count as being an incentive or not, but I mean, it's not like the developers were technically paying for those reviews. It was just like something that the community does. They thought it was useful, that was funny, they thought it was well detailed, so they can just give you those awards on Steam. So I really think that just allowing the community to sort of do its own thing rather than having some outside entity come in and try to control it and moderate it is a huge issue. I mean, I guess essentially just take a page out of Steam's book and just run with that, because just silencing everyone isn't a good thing, or at least trying to completely decimate the reviews, because not every negative review is going to be part of some review bomb. And I definitely think that there are some instances where review bombing is definitely needed. I mean, another example, I'm sorry, my last topic, but I think this was when Doom Eternal came out. It released with DRM, but I can't remember which one it released with, but it was something that was very... It definitely had kernel access, and a whole lot of PC gamers were not thrilled about that. And so they review bombed the game, and then at some point, Bethesda removed the DRM from it. And so that's definitely another example where review bombing a game led to the gamers getting a good outcome. So I definitely, again, think that this is a mistake, and even if you say, hey, think of the bad situations we avoided, think of what we did there, I think you're burning down an entire forest because of one rotten log. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, I was going back and forth on some of this a little bit, but the more I listened to what you were saying, the more I realized this is just not a good thing. I think it's really bad. I mean, it's overreach, as you said, but really this is just quelling speech. That's what it's doing. And yeah, I mean, obviously it would be the ideal in general that people shouldn't be writing reviews if they haven't played a game. But at the same time, sometimes you need to let people know that there's something wrong with this game. You don't necessarily have to play the game in order to know that there's something wrong with the game. And the danger, of course, is that even if they manage to get a fairly good system, even if they're not trying to quell people's speech per se, what is to prevent people from saying this review is fake, or saying that I mean I don't know. I guess the other side is that you also have bots on both sides. It's not just in negatives. You'll get bots creating positive reviews, as you pointed out with like Google Play and that sort of thing. And even though they say, oh well, you have to disclose that you've been paid for this review or what have you, the reality is a lot of times developers, especially like the really big ones, like big publishers, they may not like directly compensate a person, but it ends up being more just an issue of access. Like if you get basically like they gave a free copy, but it's kind of like indirectly implied that if you leave a bad review after being given a copy, you won't get any free games in the future. Or, that, and even if they don't say it or even imply it, it still gives people an incentive to give a positive review when they wouldn't otherwise, because they got it for free and they don't want to lose their access to getting free games. They don't want to be blacklisted and all that. But as it stands with all of this, I think that it sets a dangerous precedent, because it starts with the things that are good to block, to prevent, and then it progresses further than that. And it will. This is how it always happens. You will end up in situations where where that envelope is going to keep getting pushed, and they're going to keep pushing it further out. And before you know it, they're just basically going to be censoring a whole lot of people. And if you happen to have certain people in power who do not want the negative reviews to be seen, or the positive reviews for that matter, they can just do whatever they want, and you can't do anything about it because of this ruling with the FTC. And I don't like the FTC as it is. I think that I just think this is dangerous. I think that it. I guess the other side of it is you think about it like just in terms of free speech in general. People like it when speech is censored that they don't like. But the problem is you start by censoring the speech that you don't like. What's to stop if the power switches over to people who disagree with you? What's to stop them from censoring you later on? And I think that there are some forms of censorship that I might personally prefer. I think it would be great if no games ever featured nudity or sex in them anymore, because it's a problem for me personally. I would prefer that stuff not be in games at all. But censoring that, as much as it would be beneficial to me, the line will keep getting pushed. And furthermore, there ends up being an issue of I guess kind of going beyond that, just speaking about things from a Christian perspective. The problem with, of course, nudity and sex in games, while I don't think those things should be in games, and I don't want to see them in games or movies or whatever, the problem is not an issue purely of what's there, but it's an issue of the heart. And if there's a problem with the heart, doesn't matter how much you censor, it's not going to prevent the sin. So and obviously that's going off the topic more or less, but the TLDL of this is that I don't like that the FTC is doing this. I think that it is dangerous to let them do this kind of thing, and that it's only going to set a bad precedent that it's going to get worse in the future. And there will come a point when people wonder, how did we get here? When censorship is super bad and people wonder, how did we get here? And it's back at that, this is where it started. And obviously there's been other stuff before that. There's been all sorts of censorship on so many different levels, but I think that this review bombing, while I do think it would be better if people who actually played the games were the ones reviewing them, I also think it's good to be a canary in a coal mine sometimes. And you need to have someone who's willing to speak out against things and be willing to let people see those. Because, yes, some of them are going to be fake, but some of them are going to be giving legitimate information, even if they haven't necessarily played the game, even if they're technically just parroting someone else that they've heard. If the person that they've heard is telling the truth, and they're the only person who's telling the truth, you get a bunch of people buying a game that they wouldn't buy if they knew better. And, I think that that's realistically, the review bombing is better for protecting the consumer than anything else. I like the way that Steam does it. I like the fact that they make it possible that you can't review it if you haven't played the game. I think that's great. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of making it so that if people go onto a website where they want to review a game like Metacritic or whatever, that they should have to log in with the user ID that's specifically connected to that game. Because if they did that, then that way it'd be okay, you have this much time on record, people could see it. I think that if they did something like that, that would be good. But required? I don't know. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. All right, any other thoughts on this or any other topic we covered?
No, sir.
All right, recommendations and dissuasions. Start us off.
All right, so a couple recommendations. Let's pull that up there. So recommendation number 1 is going to be beware of wasps and hornets during this time of year. So last weekend I was walking and I realized I had almost stepped on something, and then I just peeked and saw what it was, and I realized it was this black wasp that was on the ground. And I realized that if I, fortunately, he didn't seem bothered by the fact that I'd almost stepped on him, but if he was angry, he would have definitely gone after me. And considering the fact that during around this time of year is worse because of the fact that it's colder and wasps and hornets and that stuff realize that their time is up and some of them have been kicked out of their nests, they're definitely more aggressive than they normally would be, even though some of them are definitely nasty as it is. So definitely be careful, especially if you're doing some stuff like some lawn care or something like that. Be careful because you might accidentally disturb a nest, and that definitely will not be good at all. My other recommendation for this week is, and this is something that I believe I might have shared last year, but I definitely think this is something that is definitely good, and that is to get the Peanuts Holiday Collection, and watch it that way. Unfortunately, Apple has since purchased the rights for broadcasting the Peanuts Holiday specials, so stuff like the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and Charlie Brown Christmas, you can't watch unless you're using Apple services. So just buy the DVD, or I don't know if there's a Blu-ray version. I'll have to check and see. There might be, but just buy that. Watch each one over the different holidays, and just enjoy it. Don't buy a subscription to Apple just to watch these, because these are definitely something you should be watching each holiday, and it's enjoyable. So definitely do it, own it yourself, and have a good time. So those are my recommendations.
Good stuff. All right, well, my recommendations, first of all, I'm going to recommend Metaphor ReFantazio. I've only played the demo, and I would say, actually, if you were not already sold on it with it being an Atlas game and all that, just try the demo. You can get it on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC, and on Xbox it's actually on Game Pass, I believe. So you can play for free there, but the demo you can play for free on any of the other 3 platforms. I don't know how the demo performs on the Steam Deck because I didn't get to try it since they fixed the performance issues with the game, but it runs great on PC and looks great. Great music, great gameplay. Very much, it's like Persona-like, but my understanding, at least, having not gotten far enough to be able to say definitively from experience, is that this one doesn't have like romance options or anything like that, whereas Persona always has that. So it doesn't have that, but it has a lot of other stuff. Has some quality of life improvements over Persona, but it's also very heavily action and that sort of thing. Kind of like and in terms of like encountering enemies, it's like a blend of action and turn-based. When you're actually in battle, it's turn-based, but to start the battle, it's more action-based. It's a little difficult to explain, but it's great. What I played so far, I really liked it, and I do really want to play it. I'm just waiting for now. But on the flip side of that, because of the fact that it is something that I have been playing lately, because of the fact that I already owned it and couldn't play more Metaphor, going back to Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, and whether you decide to play the original storyline that was with SMT5 on its own, or the Vengeance storyline, you're going to have a good time. It's a great game. Really, really great. And it also runs really, really well on both PC and Steam Deck. On Switch, you can play it as well, and it's lower frame rate and everything, but it's still, it's not a game that needs the higher frame rate. It's just better with the higher frame rate. And it's on Xbox as well. So, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Switch. On all those platforms, and great no matter where you play it. Let's see here. I think that's all I have for recommendations. I forgot to write down my dissuasion. Hopefully I can remember while you're saying yours.
So I'm actually going to change my dissuasion for tonight, and my dissuasion is going to be don't use Metacritic for any sort of gaming opinion, just because that site is going to be filled with a whole lot of false negatives and false positives. So really just look to somewhere else, whether it's a YouTuber that puts out videos that you trust, go to them, or just go to some other, other sites where people have been playing the game and you can sort of like see the game that they've played in some of their footage. They see that they put some time into it. Go somewhere like that. Don't go to Metacritic where you can get a whole lot of botted reviews going one way or another. So definitely don't use Metacritic as if you are on a fence or trying to decide if you want to get a game.
Definitely very good recommendation, I would say, along with, basically just kind of adding to what you already said is that a good place to look is find a YouTuber, someone who seems to have similar taste to you, because then that's going to be the best way to know whether or not the game is going to be for you. So, my dissuasion is going to be don't buy Dragon Age Veilguard, especially on PS5. And the main reason I say this is because it was recently shown that to do performance mode on the PS5 version of Veilguard, it drops down to 500p resolution to get 60 frames per second. And it looks very pixelated. Now, I don't know if that's the case on Xbox and other platforms. My understanding is that if you're playing in fidelity mode, that it doesn't look nearly as bad, but of course it also is only running at 30 frames per second. But if you want to play it at 60 frames per second, PS5, at least the base version, you are only getting 500p resolution, which is really low for that, and that's a hard sacrifice to make. I mean, that's a lot of a drop. I don't even know if it's upscaled beyond. I mean, I would hope that it's upscaled, but oof, that's rough. I mean, that's like Switch territory on what's supposed to be the most powerful console ever. Well, until the Pro comes out anyway. But yeah, I mean, I don't think people should play the game, period. But if you're going to play the game, just be aware of what you're getting yourself into, especially if you actually care about getting a decent frame rate. So that wasn't the one that I originally had planned, because I don't remember what I had originally had planned for my dissuasion, but that's one that just came to mind. So yeah, that's all I got.
Nice.
All right, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel, I am Xeracon, that's IAMXERACON, so youtube.com/@IamXeracon. I put out a video earlier today, or Wednesday, by the time this video goes out, discussing Denuvo and some other thoughts of mine in that video, so you can definitely check that out. My next video, I was trying to decide if I just wanted to tease this and just let there be a bit of mystery, but I guess I will quickly just post this on the video. I can't really tell if you can see this or not.
Ooh, is that what I think it is?
Yes, it is. That is what came in the mail. So
I'm jealous. Which color did you get?
I will be doing an unboxing for a certain controller for the PC that is Steam related, and I'll also try to do some gaming with it and give some impressions on how it works and let you all know about that, so you can check that out later on.
Which color did you get?
Midnight Black.
Okay, I want to get the purple one. I like that, plus it would make it just distinct from all my other controllers. I really want to get one of those. I looked at it, but I couldn't figure out how to get it shipped over here. Mostly because the site was in Japanese, and even with the translation, it was just kind of confusing. So, I mean, not that I necessarily could have bought it at the time anyway, but yeah. Still, I definitely want to know. Because, like, honestly, the one thing that makes it difficult for playing games like like Dark Souls and that sort of thing on PC over Steam Deck is not having those back buttons. Because I really use that a lot, especially for sprinting more than anything else. For sprinting and for sometimes for using like the flasks, Estus flasks, or I can't even remember what they're called in Elden Ring, but anyway. Oh, I also use it in Elden Ring to do a shortcut for summoning my horse. Just do a single button press and instead of having to hold down one button and then press another button to summon the horse. So. But yes, I want to get one of those eventually, for sure. All right. In terms of where you can find me, of course, I have my main gaming channel at the Frozen Gamer 87 on YouTube. There, this past week, I put out my comparison for Persona 4 Golden, comparing the Vita, Switch, and Steam Deck OLED devices. So far, it has not been getting really any views at all. It's probably my worst performing video, period, in a long time. Well, I should say, specifically of the comparison videos I've done. I'm not gonna let it discourage me, because it's like I put a lot of time into it. I'm proud of the product I put out, even though it's not perfect. I think it's just people aren't as interested in that particular game. I was interested in it. I did it because I wanted to do it. I'm more likely than not, even though it's months away, will be doing the 3-way comparison for Freedom Wars. Because that's something that I'm just like, that one should be a much shorter video, even though I'll have to do 3 devices at once. And that one will be more relevant because it'll be a new release at the time. But I am working on putting together the Persona 5 Royal comparison between the Switch OLED and the Steam Deck OLED. I don't know if that will be out next week or not, because I don't know how much time I'll have to work on it before Saturday. And since it's only 2 devices, it shouldn't take nearly as long as the Persona 4 Golden one did. But it's still about 2 hours of footage for each device, so it's still going to take a while. So we'll see if it gets done this weekend. I'm hoping to have it done this weekend. If not, then my intention is do as much of it as I can this weekend. And then whatever I don't finish, I can work on in the evenings next week. And then hopefully have it completely done before Saturday so that I can just have it ready to go up published the following week. I think that one's going to do a lot better because Persona 5 Royal is much newer and more relevant. And that's one that's really a great showcase for the OLED screens. Just like checking out the footage so far, even though I've only gone through like the opening cutscene, man, it looks so good on both devices. And once you get into the actual gameplay, that's where you'll really see the main differences, which is mostly just in terms of the character models. That's the big difference between the 2 versions. Plus, of course, the Steam Deck is running at 60 frames and Switch is only running at 30. But of course, that's also the first one where I filmed it in a different location that has much better lighting, and as a result, should end up being a better video across the board. And is planned to be it's going to be the new location for all future comparisons. I really want to do Red Dead Redemption. I really do. It's just spending $50 on that right now. It's just, I can't justify it. I just can't. We'll see what I think once I get through the Persona 5 Royal comparison, because I have that one. And then after that, Persona 5 Strikers is the one that I was planning to do. And then we'll just kind of play it by ear, because there's a bunch of different games I want to compare. So it's just a matter of figuring out order. Like, I think Red Dead would do really well, because especially since it's just came to PC. But I don't know that it would necessarily get enough subscribers for that, and like it'll probably be more of an evergreen kind of title once I actually get it up. It's just a matter of getting it up first. So we'll see how things go. But anyway, I also have my YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's youtube.com/@NABDcooking. I just put out this morning, Wednesday, October 30th, my recipe for homemade mac and cheese. This mac and cheese does not have any Velveeta. It does not have any weird oils in it. In fact, it doesn't have any oils in it. It just has some really basic, all real ingredients. It's super creamy, super delicious, and super easy to make. So that one just went up. Next week, my plan is to have my buffalo chicken mac and cheese recipe go up, which is even better because it takes the basic mac and cheese and makes it spicy and delicious, and it's so good. I have some other recipes planned as well. There's this thing I made for dinner tonight that was just kind of an experiment, and it came out really good. Is since you've been to Japan, you may be familiar with chicken karaage. Have you ever had that before?
I've heard of it, but I have not had it.
It's basically like Japanese chicken nuggets, more or less, but they're it's really, really good, and you got like a blend of different flavors there. So I've made the chicken karaage several times. I've done it both as like the nugget form, and then I've also done it with wings, and it's great both ways. And normally whenever I've made it, I've also made some white rice to go with it, and then like some veggies, usually just like a Chinese style green beans that have green beans, carrots, onions, and like a soy sauce, oyster sauce based kind of sauce. It's really good. But I was inspired because I had some pork loin, and because pork loin is boneless, I thought, maybe I'll slice it into basically pork chops, and then do the karaage marinade for that, and then fry them up and stick them on a sandwich. And so the sandwich had sriracha, jasmine rice, like a big clump of sticky jasmine rice, and then the pork karaage, and then topped it with like an aioli that's a mix of my homemade mayo, some togarashi seasoning, and green onions. And I did all that together on a toasted hamburger bun, just toasted on the inside. Man, it was so good. It was so good. I mean, it would probably be even better with chicken, but it was really, really good with the pork. And I'll definitely be doing that one for the channel at some point. So anyway, that's all I got for those. Of course, we have everything for the Orange Box podcast. So we have the audio only version that releases on all major podcast platforms every Friday at 12 a.m. Central Time. And like I said, that's every major podcast platform: YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, if I didn't already say that. You can find it all over the place. Pretty much, if you search for the Orange Box podcast, you should be able to find us for that. But if you are listening to the audio-only version and you want to check out the video version, where we have clips of the games we've been playing, as well as any clips from like trailers that have recently released, and things of that nature, you can, of course, check out the video version of the podcast. Of course, you can also see our beautiful faces in doing so. And yeah, that's a good way to check us out as well if you want something a little more interactive than just listening. It still has all the same stuff that you get in the audio-only version, just the video on top of it. So you still get all the video game music in the background, and everything else is pretty much the same. But that normally comes out 7 a.m. Central Time on Fridays, as long as I'm not having any issues with processing. I need to do some cleaning up of my hard drives so that I actually have room for the videos, but I just have to decide which stuff I can delete. The biggest problem is I have a bunch of 4K videos from cooking videos and comparisons that take up a lot of room, so it's just deciding what I want to clean up in order to make room. Might actually be at a point where I can probably go ahead and just uninstall God of War Ragnarok, since I've really finished it. I already have all the achievements, so I might do that. That'll free up 200 gigs. Almost 200 gigs. But yeah, I think that's everything. Oh yes, I guess also, if you want to contact us, whether you have a question, comment, tell us to Persona 3 ourselves, anything like that, you can, of course, comment on the video version of the podcast. You can email us, theorangeboxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can write us on Twitter or X at theorangeboxpod. And of course, even if you don't write us, we're still going to talk for 2.5 hours every week, because this is how we catch up from week to week. And we've been going a little over a year now, and no plans to stop anytime soon. So that is everything. All right, last chance. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast, and until next time, get out there and vote. Orange Box Podcast out.